All right, as promised, we're still writing an equation. You might notice something different down here with this notation. All right, so f of x is how we would read that. It means the same thing as y. Remember when we talked about domain and range and input and output? F of x means the output. Okay, so f of x, it's the same as y. So this is just an xy table. So when it says find the missing number that would make this table true, some of these you don't need to do, you don't need to do a whole equation. Just look at what's happening to the x. What would you have to do to the number at the left to turn it into the number at the right? Now, when you look at the first one, some of you might say add 10, and some of you might say times 3. But whatever rule you come up with, it has to work for everything in the table. And then you go, oh, well, add 10, doesn't work. 6 plus 10 would be 16. Also, notice where the blank is. The blank is in front of the x. So it means I'm looking for what would I have to multiply those left-hand numbers to make them the same as the right. So with these numbers, you could probably just come up with the 3. If you weren't sure, you would take that f of x and divide it by x. Since there's no plus number, right? There's nothing out here. It's just you're looking for something to multiply. So since we're only looking for something that I need to multiply by, so whether I do 15 divided by 5, or I would choose 24 divided by 8, all of those would give us 3. So since it's only multiplication, I can just type in that 3. Okay? Now, I want to show you that that is the same as the slope. So y equals, remember, mx plus b, but in this case the b is 0, so there's no b, and we're looking for what number are we multiplying by. Well, remember how we did that before? We found the slope. We could do subtract 2 y's on top, subtract 2 x's on the bottom. Well, let's pick these two lines. These are y's. If I would subtract them on the top and subtract the x's on the bottom, I would get 3 over 1, which is still 3. All right, so in this case, I think most of you would just look at it and see, oh, they're multiplying by 3. But if it wasn't super obvious, I could use what I know about slope because it's still the same idea. By the way, you could pick any 2 points in the table and it would still give you the same answer. Because it's linear, so the slope, the rate of change, stays the same. So for instance, if I looked at this one and this one, if I did 24 minus 15 and 8 minus 5, I would get 9 over 3. And when I divide that, I still get 3. So if it's a straight line, if it's linear, the rate of change stays the same the entire time, which is different from the rate of change that you did a couple days ago, because then it could move around because they were not necessarily linear. So that gives us the rule. Again, I showed you 3 different ways we could come up with that same number. So at the beginning, it's going to start off pretty straightforward. This time, if I look at what they already have written, I know that they're trying to add. I need to figure out how much do I need to add to get from the first column to the second column. So since I'm trying to find out how much to add, to do that, I would subtract. So 35 minus 1 is 34. And then I want to double check, would that work for the others? So if I type in 34, 1 plus 34 is 35, 2 plus 34 is 36, 3 plus 34 is 37. Yes, it works for all of them. So it should always work for all of them. So this time it says minus. So this time it says minus. What have I subtracted? So now if it's subtraction, I need to be going like from left to right. So if I do 3 minus 1, instead of 1 minus 3, 3 minus 1, or 6 minus 4, notice each time I get 2. And the minus is already there. Like they've already put the negative sign. So if I type in 2, again, after you type it, see if it seems to work. If that rule works for everything in the table. 4 minus 2, that's 2. 5 minus 2, yes, that's 3. 6 minus 2, yes, that gives me 4. It needs to work for all of them. So the first few you're going to get are all going to just be looking for one number, and it's going to help to look and see, is it adding, is it multiplying, is it subtracting? After a while, you're going to be looking for two numbers. And I want to make sure that I point out to you, when you're looking for those two numbers, this is very much this same kind of thing. They've just already told us it's going to be a negative, that b is negative. I still need to figure out the slope, and then they've already put a minus on my b. So to figure out the slope, as long as these numbers on the left are going by ones, how much is this going by? It's going up 1, right? So 3 take away 2, that's 1. And over here, 6 take away 5, that's also 1. So 1 divided by 1, my slope is 1. And so if I'm just multiplying by 1, if I pick one of these points, say I just choose that one, 6 is equal to 1 times, nope, not 6, my bad, back up, 3, because 3, this is the same as y, so 3 is equal to 1 times 6 minus what? So 1 times 6 is 6. What would I have to take away from 6 to make the answer 3? 3. So this is 1x minus 3. And the minus is already there. I type in the 1, and then I type in the 3. Once you think you know what the answer is, test it on another line that you did not use. So I used 6 and 3, so now I'm going to try the 8 and 5. 1 times 8 is 8. 8 minus 3 is 5. So when you're looking for the two blanks, it's like finding the M and the B. It's like the ones with 2 points. A table really just gives you 4 points. You can pick any 2 of them. So let's say if I pick these first 2, so negative 8, subtract negative 14, because remember this is the y, so the y's are getting subtracted on the top, the x's are getting subtracted on the bottom, so I'm finding slope, because remember slope is what goes here. So this gives me positive 6, and this is a 1, so that's 6. So it's jumping by 6 each time. So that's my slope is 6. So I know that this is going to be a 6. This is the same as saying y. And then I need to choose one of the points, and I can choose whichever one I want. I'm going to choose this guy down here who doesn't even have a negative sign. So if I write y equals mx plus b, and this y is 4, and m here we said is 6, And my slope, we just found out, is also 6. And then I'm looking for b. And this is telling me I already know b is going to be negative because they wrote a minus sign. So 4 is equal to 36 plus b. Take away 36. I get negative 32 is b. Now the minus sign is already there, so I just type in the box 32. So f of x equals 6x minus 32 is the same thing as saying y equals 6x minus 32. And you could have chosen any one of those 4 points. You get the same answer, either any of them, to any of them. So 6, and this was 32. So I'm going to test it on a different point. I'm going to test it on this 5, negative 2. What happens if I do 5 or 6 times 5 and then subtract 32? 30, subtract 32, I get negative 2. And ding, 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 that's the answer that goes with it. So the rule we're writing has to work for every single line. If you do it right, it's not that you have to check every line, but it is a good idea because there's more than one rule I could write for each of these lines, but there's only one rule that works for all of them. There's actually only one rule that would work for any 2 of them. All right, so let's see. Same. See if I jump a level, what we've got next. So when we get in the 70s, now they're not giving us the start of the problem. They're not giving us the framework. So it's very much like what you had to do when you did y equals, except you're going to start by typing f parentheses x and then close the parentheses and equal. So instead of doing y equals, we're going to do f of x equals. We still need to find the slope, find the b. So choose any 2 lines. Sometimes zeros jack people up, so I'm going to go ahead and choose these bottom 2 lines. So remember to find the slope, subtract those y's on the top. We usually do second y, subtract the first y. As long as you go in consistent order, it's going to work either way. And then 3 minus 2. So this is negative 6 over 1, which means my slope is negative 6. So I already know the next part of what I'm going to type in is going to be negative 6. And then if I plug in, and you could use this, you could write f of x equals mx plus b instead of y equals. It's the same thing. So using one of these points, I'll go ahead and use this bottom one. Negative 18 is equal to m is negative 6 times 3 is x plus b. Well, negative 6 times 3 is negative 18. So do I need to add anything else to it for them to be equal? No, I don't. That means my b is 0. If my b is 0, I don't have to type 0. We can just type f of x is equal to negative 6x. So check your table and make sure if you take what's in the left side, if you multiply, by negative 6, do you get what's on the right side? So if my input is 0, 0 times negative 6 is 0. That's my output. If my input is 1, negative 6 times 1, that's negative 6. If my input is 2, negative 6 times 2, that's negative 12. If my input is 3, 3 times negative 6 is negative 18. So it does work for all of them. You could type plus 0, but it is unnecessary. So I'm just going to put f of x equals negative 6x. So same kind of thing. Find the slope, find the intercept. So in this case, I'll go ahead and go with these two at the top. Oop. Don't know why this is kind of squirrely here on me. All right, so negative 47, subtract negative 25, and 2 subtract 1. Well, 2 subtract 1 is just 1. So this is just going to be a nice whole number. I get negative 22. So that's my m. So I know I'm going to have f of x equals negative 22 times something. And if I do negative 22 times 1, I do not get negative 25. So it is going to have something at the end. So now I can choose one of these points. I'll just go ahead and choose that top one. So negative 25 is equal to negative 22 times 1 plus b. Get that b by itself by adding 22. And then I find out, oh, b must be negative 3, because I'd still have to subtract 3 more to get all the way down to negative 25. So that's what goes here. So this is what I would type in. So again, very much like finding the equation from 2 points. Just now, you're given 4 points. You choose whichever 2 you want. Still find the slope. Find the b, and when you write the equation, we're going to use f of x instead of y. Negative 22x minus 3. Negative 22x minus 3. So f of x is equal to negative 22x minus 3. All right. So one more for today. I know today's seem like they may be a little harder than some of them that we've had, but I know you guys are up for the challenge. So only 3 lessons today. After you see some of them, you may think, I'll take one of those 5 lesson days because they were easier. So 3 lessons today. So S11, we're writing an equation from a word problem. And you might think that this is going to be the hardest one, but you might find it's actually about the easiest one. So it's saying we want to show the relationship between x and y. We're still going to try to write things that are basically in slope-intercept form. So like y equal something x, and there may or may not be something out here. So in this case, there's only one number in this problem. It says 8 centimeters of tape for every present. So x is the presence, and then this 8 centimeters for every present means the 8 is going to be in front of the x. We don't have a second number. It's just 8 times however many presents. There's not like 5 centimeters that get wasted at the beginning of the day or something. It's just y equals 8x. So some of them may end up being easier than you anticipate. And for some reason, my escape button is not working. All right, I guess my program was getting tired. It didn't want to let me escape. So y equals 8x. There we go. So 8 kilograms of paper each week. and x is the number of weeks. And this is 8 each week. So that means the 8 is going with the x again. So once again, y equals 8x. And there's only one. Now, it doesn't mean it would always be in front of the x if there's only one, but because it says each week. So that means if it was 1 week, we'd do 1 times 8. If it was 2 weeks, we'd do 2 times 8. If it was 10 weeks, we'd do 10 times 8. So, same equation again. Sebastian runs 2 miles during each track practice. So the number of practices is x. So this is 2 miles each. All right, so again, the 2x. 2 is going to go with the x. So y is equal to 2x. Now this time, notice now I have 2 numbers. So now I got to start being careful. So it says the relationship between the number of trips to work and the total distance. So the b is like the starting point. Just like when you graph an equation in slope-intercept form, it's the starting point. So Pablo has already cycled 3 kilometers this year. So that's kind of like his starting point. And he plans to cycle 1 kilometer each trip to work. So since x is the trips to work, the 1 is the one that goes with the x. The 3 is how many he's already done. Doesn't have to do with how many trips he takes to work. He's already done 3 this year. So y is equal to x plus 3 would be our simplest way to type that. Y equals x plus 3. So here, y is the total number of hairbands. And Lucy already owns 4. That's her starting point. And each one is priced at $1 each. So if I told you how much money she spends from now on, if you want to know her total number, we would be doing $1 times each one, plus the 4 that she already has. So y equals 1x plus 4, or more simply, y is equal to x plus 4. And that's why you're glad when you look. So here, Lisa walks 4 kilometers each trip to school. Write an equation that shows the relationship between the number of trips and the total distance. So this says 4 for each trip. So the x is going to go with the 4. In this case, we don't have a second variable, so just y is equal to 4x. So if we knew that she took 10 trips, we could do 4 times 10 is 40. Y is equal to 4x. This one didn't have a plus or minus. I'm going to try to jump ahead and see if we get more difficult here. All right, so this says screen batching and printed some shirts. I know I'm going to have Y first. That's my time. And then the X is the number of minutes, right? The number of shirts, I'm sorry. The Y is the minutes. The X is the number of shirts. So this says 3 minutes per shirt. So that's 3x. And there was 5 minutes of setup time. So the 5 minutes, whether he does 1 shirt or 100 shirts, it takes him 5 minutes to get things set up. So if he's only doing 1 shirt of the same kind, going to take him 8 minutes. But if he was doing 100, it would only take him 305 minutes. So that setup time is not a big deal if he's doing a lot. But if every time he's just doing one job at a time, that's why doing things in batches is more efficient with your time. That's why I'm trying to get this done now. 3x, because it was 3 per shirt, plus the 5 minutes of time at the beginning. So the one that says like for each day or every hour, that's the one that goes with the x. So this says every hour down here. So the 4 kilograms of dough every hour, so that goes with x, has already done this. That's the starting point. So we're kind of taking the mystery out of that, right? It's not so that hopefully it doesn't seem nearly as hard as you might have been anticipating it would be. So this says each night. 5 each night. So that gets an x. So there's no plus or minus anything. We don't have a second number. So y is equal to 5x. All right, so that's it. So 3 lessons. The one that looks the most intimidating is probably the least intimidating. Remember, already, that's like a starting point. That's going to be the B. And the one for each or for every, that's the one that goes with your x. That's the slope in the equation. But all your answers in this will still be y equals some number x. And then sometimes you're going to have a plus number at the end. I don't think any of these have minus in this particular case. All right, thanks, and that's going to wrap it up for this week.